Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
All right, so you picked the game this week. Usually I've been picking them for a while, and let me know what your thought process was when you picked this one.
Honestly, there was no thought process. It was just going through the list and saying, okay, which one sounds cool? I'd click on that, kind of look up a screen grab, like go to Google Images, type in the game name, and I was like, oh yeah, that one kind of looks cool. And I kind of made a list, but then I came across this game and I did a screen grab and I'm like, that looks perfect. I don't know why. I think it's more of this game could either be really high on the list or it could be really low on the list. And just from the images I saw, I didn't know where it would be. So I thought it'd be really fun to experience this.
I mean, you're not wrong. Even like looking into it a little bit and looking at the reviews and all that, like it could still go either way. Like it's not like there is a unanimous opinion on this. So, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah.
I just from being a kid, I know a lot of PS1 games because, obviously I was obsessed. So I was looking at all these different games. Even if I've never played a good chunk of them, the names are still familiar to me from like magazines, from, going online. And I've never heard of this game. So
yeah, and that's a good thing about this is you have a lot of knowledge about all these different games. I know there's certain times I've brought up certain games and you're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I'm like, I've never heard of this game at all in my life. So I kind of go into these games extremely blind, and you usually have a little bit of knowledge of each game that we play. So it's nice that this one, we both have no clue what we were getting into.
Yeah, you finally caught me off guard. So yeah, this week, I haven't really been doing much, preparing to travel for a little bit, but I have been playing a new game. I actually bought it on my Steam Deck. It's called Tiny Rogues. You ever heard of it?
That does actually sound familiar, but I don't think I've ever seen any gameplay footage of it.
Well, it's a roguelite. No surprise. I love it.
Nah, none at all.
It's got a very, very retro look, like an old school computer look, not like a Super Nintendo pixel arty look. So I like that it's a little different because there's so many fucking pixel art games now.
Yeah.
I played a couple runs past few days. It's very fun. It's really straightforward roguelite. You're just going through it, getting power-ups, fighting bosses. It's really fun, but there's not really a lot that stands out about it. So we'll see how it shakes out as I keep playing it.
I'm always impressed with how you're able to find time to play additional games on top of you have to work. We have to do this podcast. So you're doing some editing, you're doing writing, and research and band stuff, and then through all that you're like, oh yeah, and I also played this other game. How do you find the time?
Well, I will say this week, I'm getting ready to leave, and I had a few extra days off of work, so I did have a little extra time, which is how I did it. I was also downloading a bunch of games onto my Steam Deck for while I'm gone, because there's just always those little opportunities to play different games. So I usually research a bunch of indie games and pick a few that I like and grab them before I leave.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Which I did finally see gameplay for Pizza Tower, which you talked about weeks upon weeks ago. It does look like a ton of fun.
I never went back to it after that week. I think that was like one of the first few episodes actually, but I really liked what I played of it. I just, I stopped playing it for too long and now it's too late. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You've moved on to bigger and better things now.
Yeah, I also, we'll get into this later, but I didn't play as much of this week's game as I usually do. So that also gave me a little free time.
True. Yeah. Can't wait to hear all about that though.
Yeah. So yeah, what have you been up to?
So I don't know why, but this past week I decided I want to start learning to code. I don't know why.
You're getting on me about not having free time and you're like, I'm going to learn how to code.
Okay, I get that. But this is more like an app where it's more like a game style. So I can put in like a minute, 5 minutes, and I'm done and can move on with my day. Ultimately, pretty much the future is going to be like, you need to learn how to code at some point, I feel like. So I kind of want to get into that now. I've talked to you about little programs I wanted to make that will help us out with file organization and whatnot. But this is all leading up to, I eventually want to start making a game. I have ideas in my head. This one idea I have in my head is like, if I were to do it by myself, it'd take me maybe 6 or 7 years to even finish this game because of how big it would be. But I want to learn how to do it. Like we're playing these games where critiquing these games, and it makes me want to make my own just to get into the process and learn how to do it.
So I don't know if I ever told you this, but I did go to college a little bit for computer science, specifically programming.
Oh, I don't think I ever knew that about you.
I quit because I did not like it.
Oh.
And, I was also, wanting to do music. So I obviously was not focused, but I liked it for a little bit. I took some classes in high school and then I, went for computer science, and I kind of just had a really hard time. Like the beginning stuff, the basics are all really simple. But then when you start getting into, actual programs and like trying to find the bugs and stuff like that, it just, I don't know. I don't think it's for me. I'm more of, this, I'm more the creative side of these things.
Yeah. And that's where I'm afraid of too. I'm afraid of like, right now I'm enjoying it, but I'm waiting for it to step up in levels now. And like, oh, now we're going to start getting into the bushes. And that's where it's really going to make or break whether I continue down this road.
I have always also dreamed about making a game though, especially like I learned RPG Maker for a little bit, which was fun. But where I always lack is I'm not an artist. I cannot make any sort of art in any way. So yeah, that's kind of where making a game on your own, that's something that you have to be good at.
Not necessarily. We look at it in the sense of like all these AAA games and whatnot where graphics look amazing. And a lot of the games I've been thinking about to start off with are just going to be like basic 2D games. I don't plan on going the 3D route. That's just way out of, that's so much work to understand how to do all that. But I actually remember the RPG Maker game. Remember you made that one as like a little test?
Yeah, like a little joke game, yeah.
It was this whole bit thing we were going to do a long time ago. But that was, even whenever I saw that, I know you probably used a lot of asset packs and whatnot, but it looked cool. It functioned. It worked. I'm like, this is amazing. I like how this is.
I literally just used the stuff that came with it. Like that was all just the assets that came with the RPG Maker. But yeah, no, at some point I would also like to make a game. Obviously, at the very least, like a dream of mine is to do music for video games. And I have actually been trying to do that over the past, 6 months, like going in game developer Discords, going on Reddit, all these different things. But whenever you go into all of these classifieds and forums, what they're looking for the most, what there is the most of is composers. So I think I just need to get lucky one time and maybe that'll be my way in.
Yeah, that's usually how it is. Find that one little step and then it's easy from there.
But yeah, before we get into the game, we have a little bit of housekeeping to go through.
Yes.
So there's not going to be an episode next week.
Correct. Yeah. For a lot of reasons, I think we just need to get caught up behind the scenes a little bit. So taking a week off will allow us to catch up and mentally as well.
Yeah, from time to time, we're going to be doing this, not all the time, but, every once in a while, there won't be an episode. So not a big deal. Yeah.
I went back through our old catalog of the older show we did on our YouTube channel. We took a month off in between seasons. Did you know that?
I thought it was like a week.
From the numbers I was looking at, it may be, but the later seasons, we were taking a month off in between seasons. Like, why did we give ourselves so much time?
I think just because that was way more intense to make than this.
Probably.
But yeah, so other than that, we are going to start using a random wheel to pick our games sometimes.
Yeah, that way there's no bias into what we're picking. And we're just one spin, let the wheel go, and then we'll play whatever it lands on.
Yeah, we're not going to be playing these random games all the time, but when we need to mix it up and not just play the heavy hitters all the time, we will be using that. I'm working on the list still, but I'm trying to include Japanese games we can play, European games, just literally any game that us as English speakers can play enough to like actually have an opinion on will be in this list.
That'll be a lot of fun. And we'll be capturing that footage. You'll be seeing it at the end of every episode now.
Yeah, so today I have a special list. We're going to be playing an RPG next week, so we're going to spin the wheel to pick an RPG. So that will be at the end.
No sneak peek before the episode ends.
All right, so with all that, let's go ahead and get into the game. Invasion from Beyond was released on November 30th, 1998. By the way, I had a hard time even finding the fucking release date for this because on Wikipedia, it just has the month.
Oh, wow. That's Well, yeah, that's not surprising. We both try to look up information and it's very hard.
I went on a couple different websites and this is all I could find for an actual date. I think this might be the European date, but I really don't know because there's just so little information about this game. It's also the title of it in Europe is B movie.
Not to be confused with the Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah, the letter B dash movie, which I quite frankly think is a better title.
Yeah, I could see that being like a whole series of if you do like B movie and then Invasion from Beyond and then B movie and then like Creatures of the Dark or something and like do this weird niche genre of games.
No, that is a really good idea. I just think me personally, if I saw a game called B movie, that is way more interesting to me than Invasion from Beyond.
Yeah, I completely get where you're coming from.
Yeah, it was developed by King of the Jungle and published by GT Interactive. I've definitely heard the name GT Interactive. I didn't do any research, but King of the Jungle I'm not familiar with.
I haven't heard of either of those. So, and whenever like you're at the beginning menu screen and it pops up with like King of the Jungle, I thought that was like another game within the game. I wasn't sure what that was.
Yeah. So this is a flight combat game, I guess.
You're probably going to be mad at me for doing this, but the best way I could compare this was it's Einhander meets Zone of the Enders. Not the best of both worlds, but you have a ship that you're shooting things and you're trying to protect a city. The protecting the city part is Zone of the Enders.
I was going to say it's more like a Star Fox kind of game, except for in Star Fox, you know, you're on rails, whereas in this, you're just in like a square.
Oh, okay. I never played Star Fox, so I wouldn't know.
You know, I mean, it's just, you know, a flight combat game. But yeah, so I'll let you start this one. So take it away.
So the game really doesn't give you any beginning. I don't think there's no opening cinematics. You're just in the game. Okay, how did you feel about the beginning menus trying to navigate?
My first note is overwhelming ship menu.
Yeah. I was so confused getting through the menus on what did what am I supposed to be doing? The whole thing is you start with 3 ships and off to the left side of the screen you get to reorder those ships in any way you want. I believe is like an hour and a half into the game before I figured out how that sequencing the ships thing, how that actually worked. I couldn't figure it out. And then finally it clicked of what I was doing wrong to reorder them in the way I want them to be reordered.
I never actually messed with that like at all because I don't even know. Okay. I don't even know how to get into this without just going off. So.
Well, okay. Before that, we need to start with your first text message to me about this game when you played it. Which I was at work and I just get a text message that just simply said, "Fuck you for picking this game." So just unleash him. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, first of all, how long did you play this?
About 2 hours, 15 minutes.
I played somewhere between an hour and a half. And even that, I was saying this to my girlfriend today. Playing this game, it's like every bit of me is telling me to stop playing it because I hate it so much. It is so frustrating. It physically makes me ill to want to force myself to play this game. All of my clips are like between 10 and 15 minutes because I had to keep stopping because I was just getting so annoyed, so frustrated.
Honestly, I think mine's about the same amount of time for my clips as well.
But I think it all started and, you know, I kind of figured out what I was in for during the tutorial.
Yeah.
So it starts off pretty straightforward. You know, you're just flying around. And then you get to this part where it's like, follow the helicopter. And what the game doesn't tell you is that they want you to literally almost be on top of it.
Oh, that part. Okay, yeah. Where it's like, oh, I'm going to fly in a formation and you need to follow me.
Yeah, I failed it the first time. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm literally right behind you.
Yep. I did the same exact thing where one of my notes is that the debrief screens are sometimes so generic that you don't actually know what you're supposed to be doing.
And on that topic, those screens are just so annoying that they're constantly making you look at them. So like you'll just be playing the game, you hear a beeping noise, and then you see a little radio tower, and that means you have to push select and look at the mission screen again. And then your objective will change. The problem is that you do that, and then immediately you get it again. Then you get it again. Then you do it again. And it's like, you have no idea what you're doing unless you read those.
Yeah. There's even times when you're in the middle of a mission, you're following what the thing told you, but then you're not even done with that first mission, and then you get a new mission to do, It's like, so am I still trying to do this first one as I'm doing the second one, or what am I supposed to be doing here?
So yeah, you're flying around in this little area. It kind of loops, right?
It does, yeah.
Which is confusing in its own way, but you're flying around completing missions. The missions can be transporting things, just destroying aliens, like just going to a specific spot, whatever. And you'll be doing pretty much all of these things in every mission.
Yeah, and then protecting missions is another big part.
I personally think, and I only did the first mission, and then I never beat the second one.
Honestly, I can't even tell you which one was the first and which one was the second. What was I'm trying to think.
Oh man, you're calling me out now. All right.
Well, I don't even remember. I might have to pull up my footage here to see what the second mission even is.
So the second mission, it starts and you have to put this guy near a truck, and then you have to protect the truck, and then aliens come down, and you have to abduct them and put them into your home base.
Oh, I hated that one.
I would just keep getting farther and farther in it, then losing.
Yeah. And that's the exact level where I was saying you get sidetracked with the second mission and you don't know if you're still supposed to keep following this truck or what are you supposed to be doing now.
I know. And I think what makes this frustrating, and I think the biggest problem of the whole game in general, is the combat.
Yeah. It's really hard to lock on. Even whenever it says you're locked onto a ship, it feels like you're not. Yeah.
No. And like the way the controls are, they're very loose. And it's like whenever you're moving, it feels like you're going 0 to 100. You know what I mean?
On the aiming?
Just on the movement at all.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's just instantaneous speed.
You're just like, you move in a direction and then you're just flying that way. And you have to be so insanely precise with the aiming in this game.
And the aiming's so sensitive.
I know. Every time I lost was because I just kept getting my ships blown up over and over again.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to even beat the tutorial level?
I'm pretty sure I failed once or twice on the helicopter part, but then I was fine. The first actual mission, I remember it starts with you having to collect a bunch of people and putting them in safe houses.
Yes.
There's a bunch more to it, but that's the part that sticks out to me because I played it the most fucking times.
Yep.
It took me a long time to beat that. And the thing is, when I would play a mission and I would like lose towards the end of it, I'd look over at my footage being captured and it says I've only been playing for 6 minutes or 5 minutes. And I'm just like, this feels like I've been playing this for an hour.
I felt this same exact way.
It is just so frustrating. And every time you get a little farther, you're like, I just don't know if I have the strength to keep going. I don't know.
So it took me quite a bit of time to get through the tutorial because the map was just so confusing at first. I didn't really understand what was happening a lot of the time, especially when they say, oh, get back to the base. I'm like, where's the base? Which one is the base? I don't know.
I think the mini map needed to be more detailed, honestly.
I will say the more I played, the more I understood it and I was able to move a lot easier through the map and to see what I was supposed to be doing. But in the beginning, a lot of my deaths and just losing the missions was because I couldn't understand what I was looking at for the map.
I just wish that there was a symbol for your home base at the very least. It would have made it a little better. So you're not just like looking for the white dots.
Yeah, technically. Is the base white or is that like I don't know. Sometimes it's white, sometimes it's yellow. I don't understand.
I don't even remember now. But like, I don't know. After I played it for a while, the map was not the problem. It was the combat and everything else. But just getting used to it, it was a little frustrating. But the map is the least of this game's problems, honestly.
So whenever you're moving with the ship, you can't move up and down. You kind of just move forward and backwards, and the game will automatically put you up and down, depending on the environment around you. You pretty much can just move forward, back, left, and right, and the game takes care of the up and down part for you.
I didn't really have too much of a problem with that.
No.
It did become annoying when you have to use the vacuum.
Yeah.
So another thing about this game is there is what do they call it? The suck-o-matic or something?
Yeah.
Where you suck up people or items or aliens or whatever, and then you can push L1 and swap it to dropping mode, and then you have to drop it in other places. And the game wants you to be very precise with where you're dropping some of this stuff, and without being able to aim up and down, it can be very frustrating to get it in the exact spot you want it.
Yeah, or you got to move really slow. And while you're trying to do that, you're now getting ambushed by all these aliens. and pretty much dying just trying to be precise on where you're dropping this item.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that's a problem with this whole thing is there's just too many enemies, especially with the flimsy combat as it is.
Yeah. In the first level, once the aliens actually show up, it was shocking at how many red dots popped up on the map. I'm like, how do you expect me to take care of all these? Like, this is impossible.
And that's the thing too. Even if you get used to that and you start killing them all, your ship runs out of energy. So you can't fire or travel fast anymore. So you have to go back to the base and recharge. Meanwhile, all the enemies are blowing you up while you're trying to get your energy back.
Yep. You're pretty much just a sitting duck at the base, recharging your ship while the enemies are both shooting you and your mission that you're trying to protect and destroying it. So you're just useless for about 5-10 seconds as you recharge.
Yeah. How far did you get, by the way? You never said that.
I don't know.
Did you beat the mission that I was stuck on?
Yeah. I made it to, I think, the 5th level, maybe 6th level. There's a cop escort mission. And this was one of the more difficult ones because you had to follow a cop and protect him while he warned people. But then you had to pick up people to then drop off at a high school as a safe zone. And I just kept trying to do that. And the cop kept dying every time I left to drop off the people. And that's pretty much whenever I was done. Because I felt like at that point I've seen everything the game had to offer. And there was nothing more that this game was going to give me.
So did anything really change after the first few levels that I played?
No. The only thing that changes is the scenery. That's it. You're still every single level. And I actually went through a YouTube channel to look up later levels just to verify this. Every single level is kill aliens, protect something, or like an escort mission of following someone. And then, or like you said, bring something or someone somewhere. That's the gameplay loop that you experience from level 1 until the end of the game.
I hate this game, dude. It's not fun.
My biggest thing with this is it feels like they wanted it to be more in depth than what they could handle. You have the upgrade system where you can upgrade your weapons, your ships. You can unlock new ships, new weapons.
So to do that, you have to abduct scientists and take them back to your base. But you have to do this while you're doing the mission and doing everything else.
And if you kill an alien ship, they sometimes drop alien technology, which you can also collect and drop off at the base. And that alien tech is what you use to upgrade your weapons.
I tried to do both of those things a few times and it just never really worked out for me.
I didn't even understand how to make it work. Like I picked up a scientist and I went over to the base and I dropped him off and like did the drop button to like shoot him back out of my ship. And then he's still running around. I'm like, but I put you on the base. I didn't realize you had to drive over the base and have the vortex thing suck him out.
Yeah, you just kind of hover there like whenever you get your energy back, and that's how you drop him off.
It took way too long for me to figure that out.
So, honestly, the easiest fix for this game in general is just fixing the combat. But a few other things that really stood out to me were, one, there needs to be checkpoints in those levels.
Yeah.
I know that they're not that long, but they feel long. So you need to figure out a way to have checkpoints throughout there somewhere, because failing towards the end of one and having to do the whole thing over again was enough for me to never want to play this game again.
Mm-hmm. Especially when there's parts where you're just waiting for the characters to do something. So you're literally just sitting there and you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to wait until you do your thing until I can actually start playing this level again.
Literally the mission I stopped on, you drop the guy off and then you have to wait for aliens to land. And you just sit there for like 30 seconds. It's like, okay, great.
Well, that happens in the first level too with the crop circles.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they're like, the mission debrief thing pops up and is like, oh, warning, aliens are incoming. So I'm like, cool. See the alien ship start shooting and then I failed. It's like, you didn't tell me not to attack.
I did the exact same thing. So annoying. Like, yeah, no, why wouldn't I kill them? I don't understand.
And so luckily in the second level, they say you have to let the alien ship land. Luckily they said that. So it just feels like everything's so vague and they sometimes give you enough information, but it's not all the time.
Is there any way to regain health?
I was waiting for that question. I figured that out towards the end of the game whenever I was playing. So there's no actual health packs or anything. And you're going to be mad when you find this out.
Here we go.
When you go to the base to recharge, you can hit select and there's an option to change your ship. And you can change out the ship to another one. So while you swap ships, now you're using this other one can do stuff, and then the one you dropped off is getting fixed. So when you go back to the base, you can get it recharged and completely healed.
That makes me angry. Because it's like, when I'm playing this, pretty much after my first ship blows up, I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm going to lose now.
Yeah, because whenever you start with a ship, that's like one you actually want to use. Which one did you like the most?
I liked the main one the most, like the blue one.
Oh, okay. I used the small pink one, the very fast zippy one.
That was my third one in the rotation.
Oh, okay. That was always my go-to. And then the one you chose was always my last in rotation.
I just felt like the speed was too much for me. And like, I already had trouble aiming. So like moving fast just added another level of like frustration to it.
Oh, okay. For some reason, it just felt natural to me. I don't know why. But so I kept falling into the same situation as you where I was dying and dying, losing all my ships, failing the mission, having to start over again. And I was like, okay, there has to be information on this. So I went to the game manual, and that's whenever I realized that this game is very dependent on the manual. If you don't read the manual, you're not going to understand half of the stuff that's going on in the game. In the manual, there's a small section that says, oh, if your ship loses too much health, you can go to the base and swap it out. I was like, what are you talking about? That was never brought up to me in the tutorial. But the downside is the manual doesn't even tell you how to do that. So you got to figure it out on your own.
I did download the manual, but I really only looked at the controls because, like, specifically the first time you have to use the Suck-O-Matic, it doesn't tell you how to switch the mode that it's in. So I had to look that up. But really, I didn't read all that stuff. And the manual that I have also, it like, I don't know where you get yours from, but I found this site that had this one, and it literally just looks all like someone literally photocopied it in a really shitty way.
Yeah, so yeah, it's really hard to tell in this scan because it's like, this is what the scientists look like. And there's just like these black blobs on the screen.
Well, that, and like, you just look at it and there's a lot of text in here. I really didn't want to read every single thing in here.
Yeah, so it's on page 15, the very last one, up under your base. It will tell you at the very end. After a few minutes in the base, the damaged ship will be as good as new.
I still would have been very annoyed, even if I did know that. But what's with these old games and not even telling you how to do the basics in the fucking game, dude?
Yeah, I feel like they just expect you to understand how to do it, which that'd be the reason why you do playtesting, to understand. Because when you're building the game, it's like, oh, this makes sense, but you don't know if it actually makes sense in the real world. But that's what I was doing, even when my ship was out of energy. Once I figured that out, I started just swapping out ships. Not even wasting any time going in, swapping, and keep going on with what I was doing. I will say, I was on board with you. I hated this game in the beginning. Once I figured out the swap ship thing, I instantly loved it. It was so much more fun once I was able to swap the ships.
Well, I just personally think that the controls ruin the game regardless of like you constantly dying. Like, I still just had a really hard time shooting anything because you have to be so precise, like I said. So like, I don't know, for me personally, this, new information, yes, would have made me less frustrated, but I still would have been frustrated for other stuff.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, they do try to juggle way too much stuff. Having to collect the scientists, having to collect the alien tech, while also trying to save people and move things. There's so much going on at any given moment that, and with the bad aiming, with the Suck-O-Matic, like you said, it really makes it just stressful, only because of how much there is to manage with not enough time to do it.
Exactly. And like, you just don't have the time or the information to know what to do most of the time. So it just feels like, you're flying around, click and select every 10 seconds. Now I'm going over here. Now I'm doing this. Then I die. Then I have to start over. And I don't know. I just really didn't have fun with this. And I wouldn't have played it for more than 10 minutes if we weren't doing this show. So like, even if you can do all that stuff, the game doesn't tell you that. So at the end of the day, even if I was playing this when I was a kid, I wouldn't have read the manual. So like, I would have just been like, oh, this game just sucks.
Yeah, well, it was very weird to me because I was expecting some type of health packs or something. So the fact that like I kept dying and losing all my ships with how many enemies they were giving me, I felt it odd that there was no way to heal because it just felt impossible to play the game. So that's why I had to dig into it more. But I do agree with you. It loses its charm very fast. Even after I started loving it after stopping the ship, it doesn't last long with how happy you are with it.
Yeah, I mean, you played it longer than me, so you know, the fact that you still quit pretty soon after, and not because you ran out of time, just because you didn't want to play it anymore, that says enough.
Yeah. Was there any positives you could think about the game?
The graphics and music are good. I think the music really fits what they're going for. It's very dramatic, like old sci-fi style stuff. I did think the graphics were really good for what it is. The game is very smooth. With how fast you're moving, it doesn't really feel like it slows down at all.
I didn't notice anything with lagging.
I did notice, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but does the ship drift whenever you're just sitting there?
I thought my controller was broken.
I opened up Steam. I went into the controller testing to make sure that I didn't have drift on my brand new controller that I bought recently.
Which, good thing you brought that up. If you didn't buy that controller, you wouldn't have been able to play this game.
You can't play this with the D-pad at all?
No, I not that I can tell. I think it's just joystick only.
That's crazy. I didn't even know there were that many games that did that.
I don't. Yeah, you can test if you want to. You should test it after we're done here, just to see if it works on with the old controller. Obviously, you guys won't know. Maybe we can put it in the description of if it worked or not.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even think that the stick is necessary for this either. Like, it would still be fine with a D-pad.
I think it would have been smoother with a D-pad.
It would be a lot easier to aim.
Yeah, to be a little bit more precise, because the fact that I over-aimed 99% of my shots, like you just touch the stick and it shoots up off the screen. But with the whole music, I loved how in level 1, it's like towards the end of the mission and whatnot, the music is so epic. And this was whenever I was hating the game. I'm like, this game does not deserve this music. The music is so much better than what the game is itself. I felt like a lot of the other music was generic, but it was fitting for what it is. But there was times where the music just got so epic and so amazing. And I'm like, why did you put so much effort into this one song, aside from all the other songs that you did?
Well, I don't know if you saw this, but I guess the game was directly inspired by that movie Mars Attacks.
I could see that. That makes sense.
Have you seen that movie?
I have. I love that movie.
Yeah, me too. I love it. When you hear that, it's like, oh, okay, they pretty much just straight ripped it.
Yeah. I guess with that, and we've talked about the gameplay loop, and once you do the first level, that's what you're in for the rest of the game. I feel like you could have done a story. You could have done cinematics, or you could have eased into the chaos. Like, they just go, level 1, here's everything you're dealing with. Here's the mayhem. Like, ease into all that. And then it may have been a little bit more fun instead of just throwing you to the sharks and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's what the biggest problem with the game is too, is you're just going 0 to 100 immediately. After the tutorial, they're like, good luck. And if they would have had a gradual ramp up, maybe some shorter missions, just something at all to kind of ease you into it, then it wouldn't have felt as bad when you're on the second mission or the first mission and you just can't beat it. You know what I mean?
But not even that, just easing you into the story of, like, first one, okay, you find the crop circles and you got to pick up the civilians to move them away so the scientists can work. Maybe something else weird happens at that point. Next level, okay, now you're progressing that story of after discovering the crop circles, you're getting farther and farther into what's evolving from that situation until you get to like the final level where you have the mothership and you're fighting that with all these other things. I don't even know if the mothership is a level in this game.
Is there even a story in this game?
No. It's just the aliens are here, kill them all, and save people.
Not that I think a story would have saved it, but it would have definitely added something. It would have at least, if they had anything at all to get me invested, and, they're taking inspiration from Mars Attacks, which is, like a funny movie, right? That's a funny movie.
I don't know if it's intended to be, but it is, yes.
Well, if they took that same, like, cheesiness and like the comedy and the weirdness of that movie and they kind of put that into this, I think that the shitty gameplay would have enhanced it because it would have been funny. But this game almost feels like it takes itself very seriously.
Kind of, but in the descriptions, it made me laugh. I chuckled a little bit where they keep calling the aliens fat. It's just a little thing where like, get those fat aliens. It's like, why do you keep calling them fat? I don't understand. But it made me laugh.
I don't know. I just think it could have been silly is all I'm getting at.
Yeah, I agree. What about the view of whenever you fail or get in or win a mission? What did you think about that?
First time it happened, it scared me.
Yes, thank you. I was so hoping I wasn't the only one. I was like, what the fuck was that? Whenever like you just get the cockpit view looking at the pilot as they're flying. It's out of nowhere. Makes no sense.
It's disorienting.
Yeah. It's like you win a mission, then all of a sudden you're in there looking at your pilot. It's like, why am I staring at this guy's face or girl? So there's a girl pilot too.
I don't really even know why they did that. It's just very weird. I mean, like, I guess there are other pilots in the game when you unlock more ships. I did see some of that footage from later in the game, and some of them are like kind of funny.
Yeah, I think the one I saw was like a robot pilot.
So like once you get into the sillier ones, it would be like, haha, this is weird looking. But like in the beginning, it's just like, wow, why are you showing that to me?
But yeah, ultimately, I think the biggest thing that could fix this game is level variety, mission variety. I guess variety in the game would have been the biggest thing to fix this.
For me, I already said it, but checkpoints, that would be it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I can get into these reviews, and if you don't have anything else to say.
Honestly, we just did everything.
Yeah, this is gonna be a little bit of a shorter one, but I kind of felt like we said all there was to say. Like my notes are shorter than usual for this one. Usually I have at least a full page of notes, and this time I have like barely half a page because like it's just I got nothing on this. It's just not good. All right, before we get to our scores, let's take a look at a couple retro reviews and see how the game was received at the time. I tried to pick a few that kind of went with my specific complaints with this game. So Next Generation gave it a 1 out of 5, and they said, an open message to game developers. If you want your game to be fun, don't make the player read a mission update screen every 60 seconds. It is annoying, annoying, annoying. And they ended their review with, don't let the cool retro box art fool you. This game deserves to be passed on, even when it's staring up from the bottom of the bargain bin.
Jeez. And 1 out of 5, that's crazy.
Hell yeah, dude.
But I agree. The fact that like you'll get a mission update screen where it's like, good job, you saved the person. And then you exit out of that and you just sit there now. You're like, what am I supposed to do now? Oh, 5 seconds. Oh, here's a new one. Now I know what I'm supposed to be doing. It's pointless. Stop doing that.
I also didn't say this earlier, but I frequently was a little confused. Like, is the mission over? Because it would say mission completed.
Oh, yeah.
I kept thinking like, is this finally the end? Please?
And there's that delay too when you actually do finish the level, where then you're like free flying for no reason. And then all of a sudden it takes you to oh, congrats, you beat the level. I'm like, why did you let me fly around even more with nothing to do?
It's just confusing for sure. All right, so I tried to find a little bit of a higher one. That way I wasn't just, talking shit. IGN gave it a 6.5, and they said, embarrassing though it may sound, my biggest gripe with Mars Attacks, Invasion from Beyond, is that it's difficult to control. With controls that aren't very sharp, but require precision and timing under duress, Invasion becomes frustrating quickly. Which, obviously I said that. So
interesting how they went with 6.5 though.
Scales are complicated.
They are.
We've dealt with it.
Yeah.
I've noticed with a lot of these reviews we look at, it's very inconsistent. Like it'll be like a fully negative review, and then they'll be like, oh, it's a 7.
Yeah.
They'll say it's amazing and then give it a 6.5. It's like I don't really know.
Yeah.
Even with reviews now, like when I'm looking at a score, I always either watch the video review or read it, because like you can look at a number, yeah, but like actually seeing what they say and like what the specific complaints are, that's the only way to see if a game's for you or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. And they're not saying anything more than what we haven't said already.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at a few other reviews too, and they're all pretty consistent with all that. So not really much interesting to get into. There wasn't anything that stood out to me, so I just picked a few that were my complaints.
I get that. But now it comes time for the game to go up on the chopping block.
This is it. So I was going to give the game a 4, but you said the whole thing about repairing your ships, and I think that would have made my life a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and, push it up to a 4.5.
Interesting. So whenever I originally started, I was sitting at about a 3 getting into this. Just like, this is just first level stuff, playing it, dying all the time. And like, this is stupid. I hate this. I don't want to play this anymore.
Yeah.
Although, dying multiple times, getting into it, learning things that I wasn't taught in the tutorial, it became more and more fun. And then once I figured out the ship swapping, I was having the time of my life, having so much fun. I then went up to about a 6. I'm like, this is interesting. But then I played even more. And the level variety hurts this so much because I'm never doing anything new. It's just the same missions in a different format. Like, I'm doing the same mission in a different scenario, in different scenery. Nothing ever changes. So I brought that down to a 5 because of all that. So I'm very impressed.
We're pretty much on the same page there then.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go way lower than you did.
Well, I was looking at the game ranking and I gave Star Wars a 3. I mean, that was just because it made me like sick. But I think that this game does do some stuff right. The aesthetic is good. The graphics are good. The music is good. There are some things that are all right about this game. And, like I said, I think the ship swapping, if I knew that, would have made my playthrough a little better. And I think I probably would have made it as far as you did, honestly, and maybe a little farther.
It does add a lot, but it dies out in like about 30 seconds after you're done with that. Like, it's a nice thing to learn, but then you realize you're still doing the same thing. Nothing changes the gameplay after that. But we have a conundrum now with this game.
Uh-oh, what do we got?
So these are the exact same scores we gave Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare, because our average is now 4.75. So now comes the time of where does this game sit compared to Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare?
I am genuinely surprised it took this long to get here.
That we had a tie.
Yeah, for real. But it was bound to happen. I mean, there's only so many numbers.
Yeah, that's true.
So I feel pretty strongly that Alone in the Dark is better than this game.
Yeah, there's no argument on that. I was going to say the exact same thing. I had way more fun with Alone in the Dark than I did with this game. And honestly, I thought you were going to go more negative on your review or your ranking. So I thought this wasn't going to be a problem with the tie.
Well, even if I did stick with my original 4, then this would have conflicted with Tomb Raider.
Oh, true. Which, just like for the fun of it, what would you have went with that?
Before you even put this in the list, should I change it to a 4 to put it under Tomb Raider? Because I kind of feel like it's worse than Tomb Raider.
No.
Are we allowed to do this?
No. You think it's worse than Tomb Raider? I want you to go back and think about your Tomb Raider experience.
I played Tomb Raider more than this.
That is true.
We'll let it sit where it is because it's easy to say this and then look at the ranking and then be like, well, maybe not. But I feel like changing it is not in the spirit of the show.
Exactly. Here's what I think. If you look at it, obviously, Invasion from Beyond and Tomb Raider are two different types of games. Invasion from Beyond is more arcadey. It's not really very serious what it's doing. It's just a more fast-paced shoot 'em up in a way. Because of that, if they were trying to go with a more serious route, I think it would hurt it even more. It's a little goofy, it's arcadey, so it's not terrible. And I think that's why I ranked it out of 5, because I just realized what they were trying to go for. So I understood. That's why I'm like, it's a middle of the road game at best.
I agree with you. And I'm not going to argue with it. I think that we're fine where we're at, and this is going to keep happening. So we'll change things and move things around as we go.
Yeah. So that puts Invasion from Beyond at number 11 under Alone in the Dark and bumps Tomb Raider down to 12.
All right. So that's going to bring us to the end of this. And now we're going to go ahead and spin this wheel and see what RPG we're playing next week.
Oh, I'm so excited for this.
All right. So here we go. All right, we are playing Saga Frontier.
Nice. Have you heard of that game before?
I have.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. I like this new format. I like getting this little preview of what's to come.
There's a little more time between this episode and the next one, so we're going to have time to actually dig into it and actually give an in-depth opinion on it, and not just play however long we can in a week. So I'm looking forward to actually digging deep.
Yeah, it's going to change it up. I think RPG episodes are going to be very rare, and they're not going to be as often because of how much time they're going to take to actually get into the game. But I'm looking forward to it. It's been a while since I played an RPG.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be fun. Well, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We will see you next week.